Excellent. And then what 2 movies are behind me today?
It's a little dark.
Dark, yeah. One's I guess a television special. The other one is dark.
Breaking Bad? Is that Breaking Bad?
What's going on here?
Kevin.
Hello.
How are you?
Okay.
I'm good.
Awesome.
I made it.
Fantastic.
All right, let me try to see if my oh, hey, look at my Hangout toolbox is working today. All right.
I'm wearing my Rolling Stone T-shirt.
Oh. Nice.
Is that ours?
23 hours. Okay. 23 hours.
23 hours to go.
No, 23 hours until... Don't mind me, Buzz. Buzz just ran right over
my lower third.
You have your dog just run over your bare feet.
Okay.
Mike, you better restart. If you restart, Mike, restart.
I'm going to log off and log back on because I keep losing your volume. Give me a minute.
What's the deal on this bottom third now? What do I do on this?
Okay, so first of all, we're only seeing the very top of your head again. So
yeah, hold on, I'll fix that.
There you go, that's fine. So the bottom third on the left-hand side, the Hangout toolbox, hit that button, boom.
I got that, and then I do my by Kevin Allen, and then, but what I don't have is the bottom third here.
Okay, so see where it says on or off? Boom, boom, boom. Where it says lower third, go across, hit the on button, go flip it on and off. There you go.
Okay.
That's you. Perfect.
All right. I'm good.
All right, excellent. When Mike gets back in, we'll start.
300 followers away from 20,000. I moved up again.
Oh, nice. Excellent.
You and my boss should hang out.
He's follower counter? This was the first draft I was ever recognized
I
at.
didn't even tell you how many followers I have.
Yeah, you have a lot.
I don't. I never pay any attention.
You have a lot, Kevin. You have quite a few.
So.
You have over 100. You have over 100K.
Yeah. Oh no, I don't. No.
No.
That much I do know. So.
You should have over 100K.
This show is officially starting to get me noticed at places during the finals and during the draft. I had signed probably 15 autographs this year.
Wow. Gotta love that.
Just strange. People were nice. People like me in Philly. they don't boo me in Philly, fortunately.
Oh, you are Philadelphia.
I am Philadelphia. That's right.
So what's with this Josh George's trade to Toronto that he rejected? You guys
let's start the show and then we'll go. Okay, Mike will jump in with us as he comes here.
Okay.
Because I know everybody's got limited time today, and we'll talk about that. Okay, here we go.
Flames interested in bringing back again, though. Wow.
Ooh. Okay, hold on. Sorry. I think I just zeroed it. Okay. All right, have iPad. We'll travel. Here we go. Got my notes on my iPad. And smiles. Hey, Hockey World. It's the last day of June, 2014. And that's Kevin Allen.
For Mike.
And this is Josh Rimmer. And I am Eklund. And you're watching the HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. And I know I didn't tell you guys what to do ahead of time, so that's fine. But this is Kevin. How you doing, Kevin?
I'm excellent, thanks. Today before free agent day. Usually trade deadline is the biggest day of the year, but tomorrow will be the second biggest.
Second biggest day. And it feels like just yesterday we were at the draft.
We are.
This is like this is definitely the smallest amount of time between the draft and UFA day ever, right?
Well, I haven't looked at the history of that, but certainly just the way it's worked out with the interview process, everything's just kind of crammed together, and I think it's been really difficult, to be honest with you, for general managers who, this is their busiest time anyway. Now everything's just stacked up on top of each other, and they've got to make some really difficult decisions, and a lot of them have made them with all the compliance buyouts we've had.
Yeah, it's been compliance buyout day today, and you're right. And this is Josh Rimmer. Mike Jello will be joining us shortly. He's currently trapped under something large in his apartment. Josh, so we have had a couple interesting compliance buyouts today already. Why don't you give them to us?
Well, the first one was actually, you caught me off guard there. I gotta look it up. No problem. Well, the first one that I know about is the one in Toronto here, where they've stuck defenseman.
Tim
Gleason.
Thank you. Tim Gleason on waivers, although that's not going to be a compliance buyout, guys, because I believe Toronto's used both already.
Right, so it's going to be with compliance buyouts. Kevin, why don't you start us? What do we have to partake?
Yeah.
Well, Chenkov and Gleason are the two guys that everybody is talking about. I mean, a veteran defenseman who've been around the block, actually not dissimilar style. Both of them are more defensive-minded than offensive-minded, and neither one of them are going to suddenly become extremely popular in the free agent marketplace. But there's such a shortage of defensemen, particularly guys who are experienced, that they'll find work, they'll find employment elsewhere. But what we've seen in the last 2 days is our teams trying to get their salary cap and their budgets in order. Last night we had obviously the big trade of Gagne going to Toronto. Originally, the thought was the Lightning would buy him out. They moved out Purcell. They're basically just trying to clear up some cap space. But then the Coyotes, and I'm giving them full marks here, they were very creative in this. They needed help at center. Gagne's what's lost in all this is Gagne is a useful player. A number 2 center who can come in and provide some offense. So they get creative and they go to Tampa Bay and said, look, if you just pay 1/3, you can pay less money and we'll take them off your hands. And they end up getting a useful player at a reasonable price.
Yay!
And they achieves what they're trying to achieve. And then everybody's happy. I thought it was funny. Don Maloney said in his press conference last night, 3 teams ended up happy out of that single trade, and that's all very true. Everybody got exactly what they wanted.
Yeah, and I like Purcell as a pickup for Edmonton. I really do. I'm a Purcell fan, and I have been for a while. Josh?
Is he going to play on the top line, you guys think? I mean, is he going to be with Taylor Hall and Eberle? Is that going to be the line there, you guys think?
I think that's a possibility. To me, I think your team is better if Purcell is your second line. On your second line, I mean, just an indication of you being stronger. I don't see him as like a dominant player. I see him as a guy that can be in your top 6, but he's a complementary player. But this is a guy that's going to create offense, particularly with that lineup.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, and I don't know. I always thought that this was one of the best trades that Brian Lawton ever made, with picking up Purcell from LA. So this is sort of another one of the many undoings of the Lawton era in Tampa, which they have done a pretty good job. Most of those guys now are starting to be of the era of Yzerman. Now, Mike, yesterday. Mike's now joining us from Buffalo. How are you?
Howdy.
Good. We still only have the LA Kings behind you. At some point, we'll have to change that.
I'll put the rest of the teams back on tomorrow.
Do it now, Mike. Don't be lazy. I'm just kidding. Anyway, no. The whole thing is this: we have had a couple players in the last 24 to 36 to 48 to 72 hours say that they don't want to go somewhere. And one of them is now coming out as Josh Georges has refused to be traded to Toronto. Rival, why do you think, Mike, why do you think this is happening with Toronto, with Josh?
Well, he apparently doesn't want to be traded to any Canadian team. All Canadian teams were on his no-trade list. I'm a little befuddled, but maybe that was just he's been in his entire career in Montreal, so I'm assuming that may have something to do with it. Bob McKenzie reported the fact that Georges blocked the trade. The report this morning that he put out said that the Leafs were still hopeful that they could convince Georges to waive his no trade to come to Toronto. There's some speculation on who would be going the other way. It seems to be Cody Franzen is the possibility. I think Georges would be a good fit in Toronto as a defense-first type of guy. They really think they need to add players like that. But it's sort of questionable, why, and Montreal is a crucible of media criticism, so Toronto would probably be a vacation compared to Montreal. So I don't know what what the difference would really be.
That would be the
wants
only
to play-
maybe vacation in comparison, though, to Mike. I mean, when you look at 28 other teams there, that's a lot, right? I mean, and then the other day, we'll go back to George's in a second because I want to get the over-scoping aspect of this first. Kevin Spezza turns down Nashville, and also has no Canadian teams on his trade list. And there's a couple things that I want to talk about with the whole thing really quickly. One is the ethics, Kevin, of this whole thing, because I know Nashville, first of all, is very unhappy about the fact that this got out there for good reason. You know, you don't want this out there. You don't want people to say, oh, they won't go there for whatever reason. And even if it's not because he doesn't like Nashville, it doesn't matter. The perception is still the perception, right? So I guess why are we seeing these things leak out? And these things are being leaked out by, I'm assuming, the teams who are trying to trade these players, I guess.
Well, I mean, they're getting leaked out because we have good journalists, in
Right.
North America who, figure out these things. And the idea is that, fans deserve to know, what's happening. But, it's a really interesting situation because I think if you did a poll of NHL players and said, list the 5 cities in the NHL where you like going the most, Nashville is probably in the top 3 or 4. The great destination city for a lot of NHL players. They like the honky tonk bar situation. They just like going there. The fans are friendly. It's a great town. And it doesn't really have anything to do with Nashville. Now I understand what you're saying about the perception, but it has everything to do with the feeling the players have that Nashville's not close, that they have no offense. And my thought process on this is if you want to change the perception, you have to change the reality of your team. And, there's no feeling like I can make a case. Like I like Nashville's defense a lot, and I like their goaltending. And, they're going to be in the hunt for a playoff spot next season if they get any kind of offense. But would you rather be Nashville or would you rather be the New York Islanders, who have a lot of good young players coming along? And the stability of the Predators franchise is certainly more significant than the stability of the Islanders franchise. But the Islanders have a lot of good young players, and NHL players know the talent in the team. And like they may be more inclined actually to go to Long Island or next year it'd be Brooklyn than they would be to Nashville, just for the reason that they know that the Islanders have a lot of young talent, and it's a bit more unknown in Nashville.
It's true.
Hey guys,
Josh.
Two things I want to ask you guys. Number one, obviously the trade of James Neal to Nashville. Was this Spezza declining to go to Nashville? Was this before or after the Neal deal? Because I would think James Neal might interest Jason Spezza in going to Nashville because he'd have a pretty damn good player to play with. And number two, my next question is, with Georges and Spezza not willing to go to a Canadian team, does that have anything to do with the American dollar?
Maybe.
Yeah.
I doubt it. I think certainly. I mean, it's possible, but and the tax it could be the tax situation too. I just don't know enough about the tax laws, but I think mostly it's it's harder for any player to play in a Canadian city because of the media attention. It's easier to just live your life and play hockey in America than it is in Canada. I don't think there's any question about that.
Well, just to
Go ahead.
quote Dave Stubbs quotes Josh Georges a couple minutes ago, just posted on Twitter. Georges says he's deeply disappointed that Montreal has been trying to trade him, and he says, I want people to know that I've never wanted to leave Montreal. In no way has this been my decision. But it doesn't sound like he wants to go to Toronto, so I think this deal is pretty much nixed.
Yeah, I mean it's bizarre because if I was a hockey player, I don't know. Hockey players are coming off a bit as wusses to me. I have to say, you want to play in Canada. I mean, why wouldn't you want to play in Canada, for crying out loud? I mean, we've all been to games in Canada, and hockey games in the U.S. are great. Hockey games in Canada are great, but hockey games in Canada are really great. And in Toronto, it's quite the scene. I mean, as a kid, I idolized Canada. It's a hard thing to imagine. It feels really wimpy. I mean, I like Kevin the better idea of like, okay, well, none of the Canadian teams are maybe contenders in the near future. I like that better than just this whole Canadian dollar thing or being afraid of the media.
Yeah, I don't know if they're afraid of the media, but I think there is an attraction to having some privacy in your life. You got to remember, like these guys. You're talking about the excitement of playing in Canada, but these are NHL players who are used to, having a lot of exaltation in their life, and
Right.
what they crave now is a little privacy. And how many times have you talked to a player from the LA Kings that what he likes about it is just to be able to go when his hockey is over to go out with his family to the restaurant where he's not recognized because it's such a huge metropolitan area where they may not know the hockey player. So whenever it's just a different lifestyle, and like it seems to me and you that hey they would like the excitement, but you can find that. Let's use a good example. When Todd Bertuzzi came to Detroit. He really enjoyed playing in Detroit because it does have a big-time hockey feel. There's a lot of interest in the team here, but they don't have the media here isn't like Canadian media, or it's not like even New York media as well. So you don't get the same sort of overwhelming feeling that every day you're under the microscope that you would get in Canada. So I mean, we really need to have a player on and ask him about it. But that I would say that plays a role in it. They would just like to be less under the microscope.
Yeah, it does. I mean, it has to. I agree with you completely. And when you think about it, I guess that makes sense. It really does. But I don't know. In my opinion, I mean, just one more thing with Nashville before we get back. And sorry, I've lost my cursor. There we go. I couldn't change myself to me. One more thing here before we get back to the Georgia situation in Toronto. The Predators, although they are offensively challenged, have definitely made strides in that in positive ways. I mean, if you guys were to guess where they were last year among 30 teams offensively, unless you know this answer, well, where would you put them, Mike?
20th.
Josh? Perception.
17th.
All right, Kevin.
I'd say they're right in the middle of the pack. I'd say 15th.
15th. Okay, yeah, they're 19th, which is yes, you guys are all pretty good at this game, but but the year before they were 29th.
Well, and the year before that, at one point, a couple of years ago, when they were scoring by committee, they were like a top 10 scoring team. Everybody had a good season, but I think with the case of anybody who's watched the Predators, they got to work so hard to get a goal, and they don't have a number one center, and they have some potential there. Like when I was talking about the Islanders before, we know what draft picks they have coming, but Yarncroc, who the Predators received from the Red Wings last season in the leg one trade, they're high on him. They think that he could be a top 6 forward. Forsberg is a guy they have coming as well, but like the jury's still out on Forsberg. He hasn't quite developed as quickly as it had been anticipated. So, there's a lot of uncertainty. Fischer's a really fine number 2 center, but there's no number 1 center there. That's why they're putting such an effort into getting Spezza.
No, for sure, and that makes sense. I mean, I wonder, and a really good question, Josh, you asked too about did he turn this down before the Neal trade? Because I don't know the answer to that question myself.
I think it was before because the assets that were in play were the same assets that.
Right. So now
I'm not positive of that though.
Yeah, it would make sense.
So
I mean, how many assets does Nashville really have to make a trades like that? That you'd have to think so. Now, like Josh and I was thinking this too. Like Pekka Rinne wasn't really there last year. He was hurt most of the year, essentially. So if you're Spezza now, and like you said, Josh, now you can say, okay, they've got James Neal now. Okay, they have Pekka Rinne, who they didn't have last year, but and who's been there. But essentially, if they were to have signed Pekka Rinne, say, right now, that would be very exciting. There's a lot of reasons to think that they could move forward. I agree with that's a tough one. Now, but let's get back to Toronto real fast before we move on to everything else that's happening here. Go ahead, Josh.
Oh, I just want to say also, since we're going back to Toronto, Gleason kind of funny that Gleason, if you remember, was became a Maple Leaf on New Year's Day. Now
right.
Now it's Canada Day. So is he going to sign on Labor Day?
He's a holiday. It's a holiday waiting to happen, Josh.
No, July 4th. That's when he's going to sign.
There you go.
I was thrilled about that trade happening on New Year's Day. Yeah, I agree. Gleason though is another solid like Volchenkov. I agree, Kevin. Very similar. Like one's 31, one's 32. I think they're about the same age. They and Gleason I have heard for years, and he started off in L.A. But I've heard for years the Kings have always sort of kept their eye on him. I'm curious if that's a replacement for Willie Mitchell in L.A. Kevin?
I don't think so, just because they have depth there already on defense. They're not looking to add any payroll. I see three teams, major teams, Boston, Chicago, and L.A., that won't be very active in the free agent marketplace. And they have 7 defensemen there even without Willie Mitchell. So I would be surprised at that, but but who knows? I mean, Gleason is the kind of guy that he's going to find, as I said, he's going to find employment. But I wouldn't be shocked if he ends up with a team that's really not a contender. I just think that he's probably can get more money from someone like that, and there's a lot of those teams that are looking for defensive help.
And on the Islanders, if on the Islanders, I look at Volchenkov and I look at Gleason. I mean, they're the two guys I would look at right away. I mean, they are definitely stabilizing, elder spokesman on defense. I would go that way. Mike?
I wouldn't be surprised if Volchenkov is claimed off of waivers by a team like Buffalo who needs to get to the cap floor. Gleason, I think, will end up being, and he's a regulation buyout, not a compliance buyout. Right. And he didn't really play bad for the Leafs last year. I mean, he was traded for John Michael Lyles. Of course, he was criticized because he's not exactly the most fleet of foot, but he's a pretty solid, tough, defensive-minded defenseman. The price point was the problem. The $4 million salary the next 2 years, and if the Leafs had kept Lyles, they would have bought him out. This was pretty much a free opportunity to see if you could find somebody who was a little better. And I think because the cap went to $69 million instead of $71, that was one of the contributing factors to deciding to buy out Gleason.
Makes sense.
You got to think that Pittsburgh's going to be involved in there as former general manager in Rutherford, especially with Orpik leaving Pittsburgh. Well, at least it looks like that. They're going to need a defensive defenseman and a shot blocker in Pittsburgh, and that's something they kind of been missing. Also want to point out that there's a lot of big offensive defensemen and defensive defensemen that are going to be available tomorrow, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens more tomorrow, signings or trades, because 2 names also came out last night that are also being shopped. Buffalo shopping Tyler Myers. That's kind of been going on for a while. And the same name we hear every year around this time, Keith Yandel out of Phoenix. So there's some pretty...
It's like the return of the Swallows, Josh.
Yeah. Pretty interesting teams
Keith Yandel and Bobby Ryan this time of year. I always say it's the Bobby Ryan, Keith Yandel time of year. But, yep, I agree.
It's the Thomas Caberlet rumors all over again.
Yeah, for sure. Kevin, more trades or signings? What do you think? Where are we going?
Oh, signings. There will be trades, but I think we're going to have a lot happening because people are already interviewing. Ginla's talked to Minnesota. Vanek has talked to Minnesota. The Senator Mikhailuk has had a dozen calls already.
Some breaking news here, actually. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I'm hearing Danny Barrere's on the move.
Really?
I don't know. Yeah. That's I'm gonna do more research. Back to you, Kevin.
There are just a number of teams that have already talked to players, and I think decisions usually are made, right after midnight or early in the morning. And I think a lot of decisions have already been made, and so I think we'll see a boom, boom, boom tomorrow. A lot of quick signings, and then the dust will settle a little bit. But I think we will see some trades. Certainly Spezza. I could see that deal getting done. I mean, I know Brian Murray sounded pessimistic about it at the draft, but with the shortage of centers, and by that I mean offensive centers that can play in the top 6, I would think that somebody's going to jump on Spezza pretty quickly.
I would think so. I mean, and he's a talented guy, and obviously, I still wonder. I mean, was it Keith Kachuk who one year refused to go to some place and then eventually changed his mind? I mean, I'm wondering if that could happen here or not. I mean, obviously the pieces are gone, so maybe the trade isn't there anymore. But Nashville, could they get in on the Paul Stastny thing?
Well, I guess it depends on how much he wants. Because at this time of the summer, you always have to separate the cap teams from the budget teams, and the Predators have resisted giving big money to anyone other than their homegrown star players like Rene and Weber. So if he to get him, maybe they'd have to pay more than market value, and I just don't know if that's in David Poyle's DNA that he would do that. But boy, would he be a good fit there. Now he would face more pressure than he has before, because he could go in there and instead of being the 2 center and the two-way guy, they'd expect him to be more offensive. So he'd be a great fit for Chicago. There's I've looked at it upside down and sideways, and I don't see any fit there. But because they'd have to end up moving out somebody that would be disruptive, and you wouldn't gain by it. But boy, wouldn't he be a great number 2 center? I think Chicago's going to end up doing what we thought they were going to do a month ago, which is from within. See someone like Teravainen or Shaw is just going to handle that role, because I don't see any good fit for a trade for them.
No, and then if they're not willing to move Sharp, which apparently they're not. Although we hear different things about that.
Let's not go there.
We won't go through that thing again. But as of now, they're not willing to move him. I don't know about that one. To me, who's the first player, Kevin, who signs tomorrow?
That's a great question. I'm going to go with. I don't know if he'll be first, but I think Niskanen is going to sign early. I just have a feeling that he knows the marketplace. Andrew McDonald's contract in Philadelphia was such a that just changed his life. He should buy a steak dinner for Andrew McDonald, because after that contract, suddenly Niskanen's value was well established, and he must have been pretty excited that day.
Yeah, I would say. But Christian Ehrhoff comes into play too, and there's another guy, who possibly could do. Yeah, I have some another. I'm going to say that Danny Briere is going to the Western Conference, and good young team, and might have something to do with what we just discussed. Josh, continue.
Yes, just wanted to point out that Chip Alexander in Carolina just tweeted out that Ron Francis spoke with Yanni Pitkinen's agent and was told Yanni still cannot put his foot in a skate. So my guess is maybe he won't be playing. Yeah.
That stinks. What is it about ex-Flyers who can't put their feet in skates? That's just that's the worst. Yanni's a good guy too.
Well, it's been tragic circumstances for him. He had always had a lot of potential, and the injury, that's just a weird one, and it's just been sad, really.
But this is like a Pronger or a Mark Savard type situation where he's going to be on LTIR for if I'm not sure of his contract status.
So this is it for him. So.
Oh, okay. Okay, so then that's sad. He's in his late 20s, I believe. So it's it's much too sad, or much too short a career for a guy with a lot of talent.
It feels like he came into the NHL when I was in high school, though. It feels like he's been around for a long time. I don't know why. I mean, I remember Yanni obviously coming into Philly on that trade. I think it was a draft day trade, maybe.
And I don't think Ehrhoff will be one of the first guys off the board tomorrow, because unlike most of the guys out there who've had 5 days to field offers, or at least semi-negotiate with people, this caught Ehrhoff a little bit by surprise. I mean, the compliance buyout yesterday, so it may take a couple days for his agent to sort out all the offers. He may be somebody who waits a day before he actually signs with somebody.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that. I mean, I could
Yeah,
definitely see that.
he's very attractive though. I mean, let's just go back to last year's trade deadline and how many teams were interested in him. And he's easily with the right team a 50-point point guy, 50-point guy, and he was always a plus player in San Jose and Vancouver for the most part. So I think he's going to be a pretty effective player.
And
It just shows
how couldn't they have traded him? I'm sorry, Mike. How could they not have traded him?
I don't understand that either, but
it's the cap recapture. That's what it is. It's not the term. The term probably wouldn't have been a problem. The amount, the price point, $4 million. It was front loaded. All those factors were great. The problem was if he retired early and he got traded someplace and he had 7 years left to go on the contract, Buffalo's going to get that cap recapture penalty down the line, and they couldn't risk it, so they bought him out. That's the reason.
Well, I understand the cap recapture. I do, and there is a risk because we don't know what's going to happen. But as a guy, all of us, but does anyone believe that an athlete's going to walk away from money at the end of his career? Like, all he's got to do is show up at training camp. And now, I don't care if you're 102 years old and you've got $50 million in the bank. If someone says, if you show up at training camp, you're going to get $1.5 million, I'm there.
Right.
I'm standing up, and if you want me, here I am. If you don't, then cut me and I get my money. So I just don't see, even though the amount of money is not significant. I just don't see guys walking away at the end of that contract. Now we'll have to see, because the risk, as Mike mentioned, is great. But the other way to look at this too, and I think that's where people have missed the boat on the Taves and Kane contract. So many of my readers have said, "Oh my gosh, $10 million, or $12 million they're asking for per season." But at the end of that contract, the cap's going to be $90 million.
Right.
So that it's not as significant as it seems. It's the same thing on the Gaborik contract. When everybody said, well, 4.9, going 7 years, they'll be almost 40. But at that point, you could have 18 players making $4.9 million and still be $2 million under the cap. I mean, the average salary will be around that at that as well. So it's you have to project ahead.
There's still a little bit of uncertainty though, Kevin, because I mean, we all think, and we've all been told that the cap is going to be $85-90 million. We just lost Kevin. 85 or $90 million in a few years. But the problem is that like they thought the cap was going to be 71 or 72 this year, and because of the Canadian dollar, it stayed at 69. So, teams like Chicago, who have to sign Kane and Taves for 8 figures, which is a significant amount, if the cap doesn't go up as much as people think it's going to go up, they're screwed. I mean, so I still think there's a possibility, and maybe I'm way out on a limb here. I still think there's a possibility that they trade one, and it would be Kane probably, but that they trade one of those guys, because I just can't see a team locking up 2 guys to over $10 million a year. It's a big risk.
So let me just throw this out there. This is what it's sounding like with Danny Briere. I'm just saying speculation here. Only speculation is he's going to Nashville for Del Zotto, and that there's going to be that Montreal will retain some of the salary. That's speculation at this point. But pretty good speculation. So that would be Danny to Nashville as a so instead of Spezza, they go out and they get they get another center, and they get a playoff guy, and a guy and Danny came very close to signing in Nashville last time around. So this wouldn't surprise me at all. The Preds really liked him.
And this might be the reaction that the Toronto deal is dead, because if it was Cody Franzen that they were going to get back, I mean Del Zotto is a power play defenseman. Not on that team because they have Markov and they have Subban, but he is a power play offensive-minded defenseman, and so is Franzen. And maybe after not being able to move Georges and his almost $4 million salary, they found a way to move Briere's salary and get the defenseman back that they wanted.
Yeah, exactly. And Del Zotto is he's not McDonough, obviously. He's not. But you're getting back to something pretty good there. And Del Zotto, there were a couple teams that I'd heard in the last day or so just didn't want to touch Del Zotto with a 10-foot pole. What is it about Del Zotto, Kev?
Well, he just hasn't been the player that everyone thought he was. You know what I mean? He just the potential is there. Everybody knows it, but you know, if you're two failed teams in two different kinds of situations or circumstances, then you know you start to wonder, you know, what's going on there. I mean, the same thing with James Neal. It's if you know, he got traded by Dallas, now he's been traded by Pittsburgh. You know, once that happened, people just start to say, well, why is that? Obviously, coaches weren't happy with him for one reason or another.
Yeah, actually, this might not be. It might actually be. It's one of two teams. Okay, from what I'm hearing, Colorado or Nashville. So both of which I originally thought it was Colorado, then I thought it was Nashville. Now it could be Colorado. Anyway, it's what I think that Danny's on the move out west. But yeah, hopefully Colorado or Nashville is one of those teams, and we'll find out soon.
Has he been traded? Has he been traded for Shurak, or is that just?
No, this is just a rumor that I'm hearing from a source. So
yeah,
we'll see. But it sounds pretty good. I'd give this a good solid E4 or almost E5. for the
4.67 maybe, something like that.
Yeah. E4.789. Yeah.
Okay.
Like there you go. Yeah. So we'll see. So yeah, now Christian Ehrhoff, how does he compare to Niskanen in this market? That's the other question. I mean, because here, you know, Niskanen was the guy, and now Ehrhoff comes in. Mm-hmm. We talked about, you know, he had his time in San Jose, and like you had said, and they moved him out of San Jose originally because of cap reasons, if I remember right, to Vancouver. Yep. Now he gets bought out because of cap reasons. Again, yet his contract, and how they couldn't trade him, we don't know. But is he going to get more money than Niskanen?
No.
Okay.
No way.
Because you're still paying for upside with Niskanen. You know, he. You know, you just wonder whether he can be even better. Well, you know what? You know, Ehrhoff is what he is. We know exactly. Now with Niskanen, there's still some potential there, and I think I don't even know how old is Ehrhoff. Does anyone have that handy?
31.
31. Okay, so 4 years. Niskanen is still in his prime. Ehrhoff is just starting at the sort of the beginning of his golden years. So I think for that reason, Niskanen will get more money. But Ehrhoff, I'm really bullish on him. I just added him to my free agent chart, and I put him in at 10th. I think he's a top 10 player on this free agent marketplace because, you know, he can do a lot of different things, and I think contenders are all very interested in him. Yeah. And he's been liked wherever he's been. You just mentioned the issues with him were never his making.
Right.
You know, it's just been financial reasons that he's been moved out, and I would assume Detroit will be very, you know, interested in him as well. You know, the Florida Panthers are looking for defensemen, but I just don't see Ehrhoff going down to Florida. But there'll be a bunch of teams that'll be in on him.
Yeah, I know the Flyers are kicking tires on him. I know Pittsburgh is kicking tires on him too. Pittsburgh's an interesting one. Maybe you get him instead of Niskanen, but a little bit less.
I know that Detroit was rumored to be interested in him at the deadline, and you know, Kevin, you'd probably know more about that than I. I know Boston was also interested in, but I don't think Boston can really afford to trade for him unless they trade a contract out. But yeah, he's 31 years old, and he's in line with probably getting a 3 or 4 year contract that would put him to 34 or 35. You know, he played 20 to 22 minutes a night for the Sabres, and is as solid as they come. So
yeah, I mean, he came into Philly, and I remember I was in the press box, and I remember talking to the Flyers, Holmgren, I believe it was. Yeah, it was definitely Holmgren, and another one of their VPs in between periods, and saying, you know, we were all talking about Ehrhoff and saying that's a good fit for this team. I mean, there's a guy who really could come in, and the salary's not terrible, and perfect fit.
I'll tell you what, perfect fit too would be the Islanders.
Yeah.
I think you know, for a team, and again with them moving soon, and you know, with the talent they have coming, I really am bullish on the Islanders team. I think they're going to be a good team, and the not so distant future here. So to get a player like that, but again, it's, you know, can they convince him to come there?
Right, and I'm not sure how bullish he would be on the Islanders because Vancouver traded his rights to the Islanders and he wouldn't sign with them. And then he got his rights traded to Buffalo. So how many what things have changed in 3 years?
Well, I think a lot in the Islanders' case. We know they're going to move. They're going to be in a different room. I think they become much more attractive when they move to the Barclay. That's a downtown arena. I think they'll draw. It's a smaller place. They'll fill it up. I think it'll be a fun atmosphere. The team is relatively skilled on Long Island. At least they're putting together a team. They've got a lot of younger players coming. So I don't know. If I had to guess, I'd guess they wouldn't be able to convince them either. But I think their circumstances have changed enough. I'm speaking of the Islanders, that at least they're in a better position to recruit than they were in before.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Sorry, didn't mean to bug out a second. The dog was going nuts. Yeah, Buzz doesn't like this. Buzz has never been an Ehrhoff fan. Never. He's thinks he's too slow in his own end, not tough enough in front of the net. Yeah, so basic, simple things. Josh, do you have anything for us, bud?
Well, I just spoke with Del Zotto, and he said he has no idea, and he's not exactly sure what's going on. But he said, right now he's not been notified at all.
It was one of two teams, is what I was told, so that'd be one of them.
What's the source of the Del Zotto rumor? Is that on Twitter or?
That was from a source of mine, and it said that there were two possible ones. So yeah, that's definitely from me. Two possible deals, one of which will be worked out in the next few minutes. This is as I was told. So sounds like they're coming down to I've got this. I'm going to call this other team and see what's going on, and then we'll take the one. So it seems to be where it is right now.
I did want to throw out something that I learned at the draft, which I thought was interesting. Everyone knows I really like Ulf Samuelsson. I think I thought he would have a decent shot to get one of the openings because he's been an assistant coach. He's coached as a head coach in Sweden, and now he's come back. He was with the Rangers and made it to the final. And I heard he just didn't interview well, and the opportunities he had. And we all know people in every walk of life that when they got in an interview situation, it just didn't go well. And that's what I heard, that it didn't go well in the interview. So for all those Ulf Samuelsson fans like myself, that's kind of the story there. He just didn't hit that far.
Surprising because I've talked to him.
Guy. He's such a personable guy. Yeah. So sometimes and people don't realize now, but these coaching interviews are so sophisticated now. These guys come in, they got especially these professors of hockey, like Johnston in Pittsburgh, and a guy, they've come in and they got 50-page game plans on what they're going to do, and they've got pictures and arrows.
Oh yeah, and it's crazy, and it continues on and on and on. And we lost Kevin for a second there, but yeah, these interviews are nuts. And I've talked to some people who've interviewed for coaching jobs recently. So I'm putting I think my camera fell. But yeah, I've talked to people who've interviewed recently, and it is a crazy situation. Mike,
now that all the head coaching positions have been filled, I know that a lot of teams are going to fill out their coaching staffs, assistant coaches. I know that there have been indications that former assistant Tony Granato from the Penguins is in the mix for one of the Leaf assistant coach jobs. They continue to mention Adam Oates, although I don't know how likely that is him being added to the Leaf staff. But I think go ahead, Josh. Josh has some news.
Yeah, a little bit of news here, guys. Dave Stubbs now tweeting that Josh Gorges has expanded his 15-team list of teams to which he'd go to. A couple of Canadian teams have been added, but he's not specifying which teams those are.
But one of them, of course, is not Toronto. So there you go.
So that leaves us with how many? 5 teams, right? So we'll see. Kevin, you're back. Sorry.
Yeah. Some players can never get a rivalry out of their head. Like Peter Forsberg. The Red Wings tried to get him numerous times, and he just said no. I can't hate the Red Wings my entire career and then go play for them. And maybe George just decided he didn't want to play against the arch rival team.
Yeah.
So obviously Ottawa's not one of them then too.
Could well be.
If that's the case. And would he really want to go to Winnipeg? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, no. So he would go to Edmonton. So I mean, think about it. He's probably expanded it to Vancouver. Maybe. I don't know. This little list thing is crazy anyway, because these guys, we saw what happened with Betsa. They go and they ask him anyway. So I can't help but think that the list thing concept is what it is, right? It's as good as the paper it's written on, they say. So I don't know.
It's all, really what it comes down to is control. I mean, players just want to have as much control as they can get. So you start out with a lot of control, and slowly you relinquish it until you reach a point where, you can at least accept it. Because, ultimately you don't really want to be with a team that doesn't want you. That's never good. So
Right. And yet, when a team that's not on your list, I've seen this happen too with players, when a team says, I don't want to go to that team, and suddenly that team's interested in trading for them. Players are just people, and they're like, wow, wait a second. It's kind of like Hartnell and Columbus. Columbus really wants me. They must really want me there. And that changes things quickly. That can change their minds too. It's one thing to be wanted. It's another thing to not be wanted. And no trade clauses for certain kinds of players never made sense to me. Like Hartnell is a guy who you knew that if the Flyers went to him and asked him said they wanted to trade him, he would be like, oh, fine, whatever. You want to trade me? I'm out of here. Certain personalities of players are like that, and I'm not so. But the other players are like, no, I'm done. I got the no trade clause for a reason. I'm doing that. But there's different guys who have different feelings on this whole thing. So what's the biggest surprise tomorrow? Let's just throw out a prediction on the surprise tomorrow. And we'll start with you, Mike, because I want to put you on the spot the most. So
great. Thank you.
So you got to give me your biggest surprise for tomorrow, and I'll talk just for a second more so you can think about it. Like what I'm talking about in terms of, okay, I did not expect that player to go for this much money, or I did not expect that team to go after that kind of a player, or wow, that team really got shut out, or Jason Spezza is now the general manager of the Predators. What do you think? How do you think this could play out, Mike?
I know that the rumors regarding Dan Boyle had been centered mostly on Toronto and a couple other more contending teams, but what I heard in the last day or so is indicating, and this probably is a factor with all these deals with the Lightning just making it, that Tampa Bay was going to make a big pitch for Dan Boyle. That would surprise me, but now that I've heard it, it makes a little bit sense. But yeah, I mean that would be a little bit of a surprise. So Dan Boyle to Tampa Bay.
Josh, do you have a surprise for tomorrow?
Yeah, I think Joe McGinley's going to sign somewhere where we didn't expect it. Could it be Detroit, possibly? Could it be back to Calgary? I don't think Boston's going to be able to re-sign him, and I think he'll end up in a team a lot of people didn't expect him to go to.
I like that. Kevin?
Well, I don't know if it's a surprise, but I think Paul Stastny's going to be the highest paid player on free agent day. I think he's going to get a whopping contract. A lot of people said he would never match the contract he got last time. I think he will. There's just enough teams out there that like him and want him. It's just going to drive up the bidding. I think he'll be the big winner.
I like that. That's a good one. Go ahead, Josh.
I was going to say I got one more too. I don't know if Spets is going to get moved tomorrow.
Yeah,
they might not be able to get the demands for him that they want.
I believe that Spezza is now intrinsically or inexplicably or some word like that tied to Paul Stastny. I think that's the point. I think that whoever loses out in the Paul Stastny sweeps that's Brian Murray's next call. And I think that's where he's going. I think he's going to wait for Stastny to sign somewhere, wait to see who's left, and then go from there. So I will agree with you. I don't think if Jason Spezza gets traded, it's 7 o'clock-ish tomorrow night. That's my prediction. Mike?
I think there's a possibility that Dave Bolland will re-sign with Toronto, in spite of the fact that most people are thinking he's going to go to Florida or to another team. I still think this is one of these deals where, like, everybody thought Tyler Bozak was going to go someplace else last year, and he ended up coming back to Toronto for a pretty economical deal. I'm starting to get the sense that he he's not getting offers of 7 years and $5 million out there. I think if it's relatively close, I think he comes back to Toronto.
If you're Boland, why wouldn't you sign a bridge deal for little money with Chicago? I mean, like Kevin, you said, this is like a place where he's played before. He can go. He can be the second line center there, and go and obviously have success. And then from there, he needs to be. He's in a bridge deal spot here.
That would be interesting. I think the Blackhawks would have trouble even putting a bridge deal together. I mean, they are really tight against the cap. But if he was willing to do that, it would be easier for Stan Bowman to make it work. But I don't even think Chicago would be interested in doing that. I think that ship has kind of sailed. One other thought I would have too is that I think the Florida Panthers will be a little more active than people realize. I think they will be able to recruit some players down there. They're looking for a couple of defensemen now that Jovanovski has been bought out. And I think they will get some. They won't get any of the big name guys, but I think they're going to get some guys down there because they're starting to get a younger group of guys that are somewhat impressive with Huberdeau and Barkov and Ekblad. So I think they'll be able to land a couple of guys. Like maybe they could get a guy like Gleason to come down. He would be a pretty effective player for them.
I could so see Dale Talon going after Josh Georges too. I mean, that would be a great fit in my mind for that team. Maybe that's the kind of player. Josh, what do you have before we get out of here?
I don't know if this has been mentioned at all, but apparently Del Zotto's probably, if he's not traded today, will be a free agent tomorrow.
So you think he's going to be bought
out? Nashville are not qualifying him.
Wow.
Well, okay. Okay, before we go, last thing, Kevin, how was Philly with you for the draft? How'd you like it?
I like the draft quite a bit. It's it's like the NHL's annual convention. I like seeing everyone, but it's become such a major event, television-wise now that my ability to get the chance to talk to general managers has been curtailed. Like a couple of minutes between each pick now. It seems like we're in the lightning round. So you don't get them to come to the rail as much. But I thought there'd be more trades, to be honest. But all in all, there was enough news to make it interesting.
Yeah, I liked it. That Marty Brodeur to Toronto, that's my surprise for tomorrow. That's gonna happen. I don't know that's nothing, but yeah, and I agree with you, Kev. There was one funny moment where Kevin and I were standing at the little fence there before the draft. It is this ridiculousness of like feeling like a cow, on this side of the fence, and on that side of the fence, of course, are the other people. And there's just a real ridiculousness to it. But I give the Flyers fans props for being, especially on the opening night,
really Flyers fans.
Being there. They were being Flyers fans, but they were doing it in a really funny, passionate way. And it was fun to see teams try to like outsmart them. Like, we'll send up Rick Tocchet to make a that'll be fine.
I thought the funniest moment though, when the Blackhawks came up and thanked the fans and then told the fans, every time the Blackhawks come to Philadelphia, we have a very good time. I just thought that was the most hilarious moment. And, as much as I thought the Philadelphia Flyers fans were so much fun in their booing of Gary Bettman, I thought he handled that magnificently.
He did.
It was unbelievable, and little comebacks. Didn't we? I thought we had this worked out.
Yeah, it's like him and 20,000 people. I know he's like having this personal conversation with 20,000. It was great the way he did that. Isn't this a city brotherly love? And and I admire your passion. He was so unbelievably. It was funny. It almost became just. I think the Flyers fans were just kind of in on it with him at one point. Knowing Flyers fans the way they are, they're just like, well, now it's our job to boo you. Once you say that, once you say something like this in the city brotherly love, then it's all bets are off. Now you're really screwed. Josh,
I hate to say this, but Katie Strang just tweeted out a column on the Blue Jackets and the Ryan Johansson negotiations, and Ryan Johansson characterized the recent offer as a slap in the face.
Well,
yeah. I've earned more than a 2 or 3 year deal with my play. Johansson told the Dispatch, it seems a little disrespectful, to be honest. I want to play in Columbus. I want to be a Blue Jacket, but I want to get this done. It seems like a slap in the face.
So better than a kick to the groin, not quite as good as like a wet willy.
We're not even close. They say we want to sign you to a bridge deal. We say we don't want to do a bridge, and that's the end of it.
Yeah. It sounds like PK Subban all over again there, Josh.
Sounds like it sounds like the Columbus Blue Jackets have arrived officially. They've got their first player who, is a great player who's actually, giving them crap about something.
No, they had a problem with Zheredev. They had the same issue.
True, that might say a really good young player who's going to be.
Look where Zheredev is now, right?
Yeah.
Wasn't it the Blue Jackets that sort of put an end to the bridge deals with the Rick Nash signing? Years ago. So
that's true. They did, and then they did it last year with Bobrovsky. They did a bridge deal. So who knows? I mean, this is all going to be great. Well, fun times as always, guys. Kevin, good luck tomorrow. What will you be doing tomorrow? What besides pulling your hair out?
Yeah, no. What little I have left. Tomorrow pretty much will be just like the rest of the journalists around North America that were covering hockey. We just have to sit by the phones and work them and try to get up as fast as you can and read Twitter because somebody will put everything up there sooner or later, and it'll all. So.
Are you guys live blogging it or anything, or?
We haven't made our plans today. We have been live blogging in the past, so I assume we will.
You got a couple good stories out there today too. Definitely check out Kevin's stuff on USA Today and follow him at by Kevin Allen, and that's way at by Kevin Allen, as you can see. He's the one. You're one of my favorite people to follow on this day. So I'm always there with bells on. So good luck tomorrow.
All right, you too. See you later.
Yeah, and Josh, you're going to be at Sportsnet.
Yes, I will be at Sportsnet tomorrow.
You traitor, you.
Yeah, I will be available via phone if you need to get a hold of me.
Okay, no problem. I'm just kidding.
Josh, unfortunately, I won't do any video.
Yeah, no, it's a good thing. And Mike and I will be here holding down the fort, and we will be, having anybody we can bring in starting around 11 a.m. and go until whenever things start to really slow down, which could be 2, could be 7, could be 12.
Which could be 11:15. Yeah, there you go.
Could be 11:15. But no, so we'll be here tomorrow. But make sure so check this. We're the alternative to SportsNet or TSN. We will tell you what they're telling you too, because we'll be watching them as well. So you don't have to watch them. You can just watch us, and we'll give you everything that you need to know. All right. Now remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey. See you soon.